David Bedrosian is a retired engineer, accomplished woodworker, and a PantoRouter owner who recently made a pair of elegant outdoor side tables. When he showed on Instagram how he made them using the PantoRouter, we asked if he would be willing to publish his plans and offer them on our website. He wrote a comprehensive plan including step-by-step instructions with photos and a cut list, all for $15, and 100% of the proceeds go to David. David used some clever ideas for indexing on the PantoRouter, and having a personal need for something similar, it inspired us to buy his plan and build a couple of similar tables ourselves, adding a few little twists on his design. We wanted one side table for the deck and one table at standard dining table height to use as a landing spot beside the barbecue or as a small two-person outdoor dining table, so we scaled up David's original plan and went to work. We always start with the mortise and tenon joinery, and David uses a simple spacer system to keep the mortises correctly distributed. There are 9 mortises evenly spaced in each of 2 rails on David's table plan, so he cut a spacer block and used it to relocate the fence stop as he cut the next mortise and the next and the next. This is fast and simple, but we remembered a method that Don Murray used to make his 5-foot-long walnut hinge and decided to use that method instead of David's. Don uses a tenon as an index to hold the mortise workpiece while the next mortise is cut. This works super well, but it's specific to a single mortise size. We thought about this a while and realized we only need a fixed point to bump the mortise to, so if we make the jig adjustable and if we use a 1/4-inch dowel to bump to, we should be able to use the same jig for any mortise thickness a 1/4 inch or larger. We modified our vertical clamping jig to make this operation fast and easy, and we made a separate video showing how we made it. A link to the video is in the description below. We started by finding the center of the workpiece, then mounted the 2 template end segments marked with the circles to make a 1-inch wide by 3/8 inch thick mortise. We lined up the mark we'd made on the side rail for the center of the first mortise to the center line of the table, then we cut the first mortise. Next, we moved the workpiece over to the mark on the rail for centering the second mortise and locked our jig in place so that we could repeat this operation. Next, we cut our tenon pieces to the same length using a sled and stop on the table saw. We made this little jig system using one of the front fence stops and an L-shaped plywood scrap to index each tenon board for exact tenon length. And in the process of cutting dozens of tenons for these 2 tables, we arrived at an even better method, which led eventually to the swing stop that's now available on our online store. There's a video link in the description below showing the swing stop in action, but for this project our little jig system kept all of the tenons the same length, which was critically important. The dry fit of the tabletop went well, so we oriented the legs for pleasing color and grain. We want a 1/4 inch reveal where the side and end stretchers meet the legs, So in order to accomplish this without any measuring, we add a spacer that's twice the thickness of the offset or reveal to the thickness of the workpiece when we set our thickness gauge. Since our stretchers are not centered in the legs, we cut all of the mortises for the stretchers going one way from the leg, then reset for those going the opposite way. It's super simple to reset the fence. We just squeeze the stretcher between the fence and an auxiliary fence, then tighten the auxiliary and remove the main fence. The whole changeover takes under a minute since the height of the bit doesn't change. Before tapering the legs, we wanted to embellish them following David's design, and instead of a straight line across the leg, we wanted an arc for our tables. We started to make a template for this, then tried our bow tie template, and really liked the look. We followed only the top of the template with the guide bearing, being careful not to lift the guide bearing, and it worked great. The tabletop end pieces are routed to join the rails with integral mortise and tenon. We were careful to follow David's instructions to maintain the same spacing between the last cross piece and the end piece as the spaces between all of the other cross pieces when we cut the tenons in the side rails. On a bit of a side note, this project generated a huge amount of sawdust and shavings, which gave us a chance to put our new best buddy to the test. This mullet dust collection cyclone works much better than the United Dust Deputies we've used for years, and we love that it's translucent to watch it work and to monitor the dust level. Gluing up a project like this with 22 integral mortise and tenon joints can be a bit nerve-wracking, so we followed David's suggestion to use slow-set epoxy for increased open time and excellent weather resistance. Epoxy also provides good lubrication, so the tight joints slid right together. David suggests coating all of the end grain, which makes sense as these tables are intended to live outside, though we'll always cover ours when they're not in use. We got it all clamped up and wrote down the clamp time on the piece so we knew to give it plenty of time to cure. We transfer the curve we like to the end pieces and cut them off at the bandsaw. The connections of the stretchers to the legs would be very difficult to scrape or sand glue from, so we used blue tape to mask before gluing. We didn't show the step of tapering the legs, but since the legs are tapered on only two sides, any tapering jig for the table saw or bandsaw could be used. After sanding to 220, we finally had our table support assemblies ready for finish. We used General Finish's outdoor oil, which worked fine and is supposed to have good UV resistance. We applied 2 coats and wiped each coat afterwards according to the instructions. The tabletop was fun to finish, and we were careful to floss the oil between the cross pieces, then clean it out of the corners for a nice clean look. We let the finish set for a few days while we waited for a nice day to take the tables out to the deck. We couldn't be happier with David's design and his excellent plans and instructions. They were easy to follow, and we're very pleased with the end result. Look for these plans on our website store, and remember that all proceeds from each sale go to the author of the plans. Be sure to check out the related videos listed in the description, and let us know if you have any questions we can answer. Happy PantoRouting!